Banner Knowledge Bowling. I'm Steve. Let's talk bowling. As we look around the country, states are starting to open back up and the centers are opening, and I can't wait to get back out on the lanes. Where I live in Pennsylvania, it's going to be another 4, maybe 8 weeks, so I got a little bit of time, but I know a lot of you are getting out there, and I thought this was the perfect time to bring up this topic. This topic is really bad coaching advice. This is the advice you get from your buddies, and what makes it so difficult is the advice is really couched in truth. There's some good to it, but usually it's told wrong or we interpret it wrong, and it really hinders our game and hinders our ability to start to improve. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about, and it's the bad coaching advice that you get from your buddies, is that you got to keep your shoulders square. And although that's correct, we do need to be square. We need to be square to our target. And people, when they get square, they tend to get square to the foul line. They tend to get square to both gutters, and they get very straight to that. And typically, our launch angle is not straight up the lane. It can be, certainly, but on most of our house shots, we have a little bit of a launch angle, let's say, or we're going to release the ball going towards the 10 pin for a right-hander, and it's going to go down to the right, for example, find some friction and hook back. We need to get square to the target line. We do not want to get square to the two gutters and the foul line. The second part of this is people get their shoulders very, very straight, and then if you're completely symmetrical and I put a heavy ball on the one side of your body, you're out of balance. And again, if you're out of balance, you're going to do things to try to get yourself back into balance because your brain doesn't like to fall down. So remember, the bowling shoulder is always a little lower and a little behind the non-bowling shoulder. By doing that, you raise the left hip and the left shoulder for a right-handed bowler, and that offsets the heavier weight that is on the right side that's on your right arm. So again, it is right to square your shoulders, but square it to the target line, not to the foul line, and not to the two gutter caps. The second piece of advice that I hear all the time is slow your feet down. You're going too fast and you need to slow your feet down. Now this is really, really a big topic for me. I've talked about it a bunch. What happens when you slow your feet down is, as the bowler, you feel more in control. You feel like you're doing something. But I'm here to tell you, in any sport, especially a sport that has a ball, anytime you decel, anytime you deaccelerate, it's never a good thing. Why would you want to take power away from your delivery? And again, bowling is about knocking heavy sticks down far away. And if you slow your feet down, in essence, you're saying my ball's too powerful, I need to not have it be as powerful. I always coach, and I've said this many times, go at your normal athletic pace. That's the pace you're going to go at when you're nervous, when you're excited, when you're anxious, when you don't have all the focus in the world, when your mind turns off. That's the pace you go at. If you have to go at a pace slower than that, you have to decel. You have to think about that. Very, very hard to repeat. So my advice is, don't slow your feet down. Go at your normal athletic pace, and let's figure out when to start your push away to match the foot speed that you have. And sometimes it's pushing the ball away a little later in your timing, and it could be a little earlier in your timing. Get a certified coach. They can pick this out for you in a heartbeat and get you back to where you need to be. But in general, slowing your feet down usually leads to more problems down the line, even though it might feel really, really good when you first start doing it. The last thing that I hear people say is, you got to get your hand behind the ball. Your hand's not behind the ball enough. So what happens is, people interpret that, they get way behind the ball and they get a lot of forward roll. Now, if you don't have a lot of ball speed and you have a lot of forward roll, I see these bowling balls rolling out at the arrows. All the energy, the skid hook roll, is being used up very early on the lane, and the ball has very little power on the back part of the lane. Again, there is a lot of times in our sport when you need to be more behind the ball. So again, it's couched in truth. But you got to watch your ball. You got to see when the ball starts to slow down and transition from the skid to the hook. And the pins never lie. If the ball's hitting the pins and you're leaving those weak 10s, that's a sure sign that your ball got into the roll way too early and it's out of energy. And getting around the ball a little bit will help get the ball down the lane. Certainly, it'll change the shape of it. It'll make it, if it gets down the lane a little bit more, it'll certainly want to hook a little bit more, have more of that hockey stick shape. That may or may not be what you're looking for. But just the general rule of your hands, you got to get your hand more behind the ball, I feel hurts a lot of bowlers because they get such an early roll that their ball's rolling out. You're allowed to get more behind it. You're allowed to get all the way around it with a lot of side roll, and you can go everywhere in between that. My advice is to work on all those different releases, the forward roll, the 3/4 roll, the side roll, and everything in between those so that you have the most tools in your tool chest. So why don't you tell me what kind of advice you're getting on the lanes? Tell me the good advice that you're getting. Tell me maybe some of the bad advice that you're getting, or what would you like to talk about? Put them all in the comments below and we'll talk about it on a future episode. Thanks a lot.